Welcome to Modern Motoring. In this video, we are comparing two compact crossover hybrids. In the red, we have the 2025 Mazda CX-50, and in the white, we have the 2025 Honda CR-V. We'll go through all the key categories, from driving to cargo to fuel consumption to livability to technology, go through pricing, and then we'll pick a winner. Here's how I've set up the video. The first half will be in the Honda, and we'll go through power figures, cargo, fuel economy, and safety. Then I'll jump into the Mazda and cover driving impressions, livability, some standard features, technology, price, and we'll pick a winner at the end of all of it. So let's start with power figures for both. In the Honda, we have a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, 204 horsepower, 247 pound-feet of torque, E-CVT, and all-wheel drive. In the Mazda, which is using the RAV4 powertrain for now, they'll get their own, I think, later on in 2025 with the CX-5, but for now what we have is Toyota's 2.5-liter 4-cylinder engine, 219 horsepower. Toyota does not publish torque figures. Mazda's website says 163 pound-feet, which is some of it, but not all of it, but I don't have an accurate number for the combined amount of torque. It also runs off an E-CVT, and all-wheel drive does come standard. I'll touch a lot more on this on the driving impression side, but I do want to say this up front. 1,583 kilograms is the curb weight of the Honda, and 1,809 is the curb weight of the Mazda. So the Mazda is heavier by 226 kilograms, or almost 500 pounds, and that will absolutely make an impression once we get into the driving side of things. In the Honda, with the rear seats up, we have 1,028 liters. In the Mazda, with the rear seats up, we have 826. So Honda's got a lot more space. Seats up, you put those rear seats down, Honda's almost doubles to 2,030, whereas Mazda's, well, it's not all that great at 1,595. So a little more than 400 liters of cargo space with the rear seats down in the Honda. And the CR-V has nearly 200 liters more of cargo space with the rear seats up, which they would be for most of it, because in the compact crossover segment, there's a high chance of having at least one person in those rear seats, if not two. On the fuel consumption side, it's fairly close. Let's start with the Honda because that's what I'm in. 53-liter fuel tank here, and a combined liters per 100 kilometers of 6.4, meaning you can go around 828 kilometers on a full tank of fuel. Over on the Mazda side, it's a 55-liter tank, so 2 liters more, but the fuel consumption rating comes down to 6.2 liters per 100 kilometers, meaning you can go 887 kilometers on a full tank of fuel. And Mazda wins this round with 59 extra kilometers driven per tank. I'm not sure that 59 kilometers of extra range will be a deal breaker, or a deal maker for that matter, when deciding between the two, but know that there's a slight advantage here for the Mazda. Both the Honda and Mazda score high for standard safety. Some highlights from Honda include adaptive cruise control, forward collision warning, lane departure warning, lane keep assist, automatic high beams, blind spot monitoring, traffic jam assist, and a few more. Over on the Mazda side, they've also got a great list: blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, traffic sign recognition, adaptive cruise control, lane departure warning, lane keep assist, and automatic high beams, plus a few more. So good job on both sides for not nickel and diming the consumer on things that needed to be standard years ago, but I'm happy that are standard now on the safety side. And now we're in the Mazda for the second half. Let's start off with driving impressions. So surprisingly, I find the Honda drives a little better, and here's my theory behind that. Mazda drives well, but Mazda usually has geared transmissions. Because they're sharing the hybrid system with Toyota, who uses an E-CVT. There's an E-CVT here in the Mazda, and it's lacking that excitement and engagement that every other Mazda I've driven has, and I really think it's the E-CVT that's taking away from it. The Honda is lively, and it's not quite exciting to drive, but there is a much better drive feel with the Honda CR-V hybrid than I find here in the CX-50 hybrid. Now, when Mazda comes out with their own specific hybrid as opposed to sharing with Toyota, I think that will make a pretty big difference, because Mazda can really bake their DNA in for driving impressions into that hybrid system as opposed to borrowing it. Both drive well. Power figures are extremely close. I don't know the torque figures for the CX-50. It's not published by Toyota, and therefore it's not published by Mazda. But I will say it feels quicker off the line in the Honda, and twists and turns are done a little better in the Honda as opposed to the Mazda. Again, nothing's wrong with the way the Mazda drives. It's just that every other Mazda I've had has had such a wonderful set of driving impressions attached to it. And that's Mazda's thing, being one of the smaller automakers. They had to find a way to separate themselves, and the driving impressions and driving dynamics did it for them. And I'm just not getting it here. And the Mazda is about 500 pounds heavier than what we have in the Honda. So I think that definitely has some impact as well. It's not all bad for Mazda. It does have a little bit of the Mazda zoom in it, so to speak, but not nearly enough. So the winner for the driving impressions is going to be Honda. On the livability side, it's a draw for me. Both have extremely high livability scores. Rear seats are pretty spacious. Yes, the Honda has a fair amount more of the cargo space, but it's easier to work with in the Mazda with those releases. But then again, the Honda lets you adjust the recline level in those rear seats, moving up to the front. Front seats in both are comfortable, both driver's seat and passenger seat. All of the creature comforts are here. It's easy to get into, it's easy to get out of. There's no one that's better than the other. So I'm gonna call the livability side a draw because, yeah, there are some differences, but overall in the compact hybrid crossover market, both the Mazda CX-50 and the Honda CR-V hybrids do extremely well on making life very comfortable, not only for the driver, but for all of your passengers. Well, except that metal passenger in the rear seat, they don't get taken care of at all in any vehicle. Last thing before we get to price and a winner will be the technology, and it depends on what you want. I'll lay it out for you. Let me know what you think. I'll let you know what I think. So in the Mazda, it's the 12.3-inch screen. It's pushed all the way back. You have a rotary controller to navigate most of it. And yes, you can activate the touch side of the screen for Apple CarPlay. I'm not sure if anybody uses that. It's also a little harder to reach by having to lean forward to get to it. Hence Mazda pushing it all the way back. And they say it's closer to having your eyes be in line with the road, and you're not bringing your eyes down as much as you would in some competitors. Nah, I think it's up for debate. I think it's fairly close. No one's going to put out anything unsafe. And over on the Honda side, you get the 9-inch screen, no rotary controller, and it's a lot closer. It's right on the edge of the dashboard line and easy to use, easy to navigate. Little on the low res side as far as graphics go. I don't know if that makes a big difference. You can still see everything, but it's not quite as crisp on the Honda side as it is on the Mazda side. Turning to the instrument cluster, it's a tie because they're both half and halves. Here in the Mazda, one dial is digital and the bookends of that are analog. And in the Honda, the left side is going to be digital and the right side is going to be analog. I guess if you are a digital person, the Honda would win out because you have about half being digital as opposed to here in the Mazda, where it's only 1/3 being digital. Either way, all of the information is easily obtainable. You're not squinting, you're not pushing your face closer to the instrument cluster to find out basic things. So that's why I'm calling it a tie. It's still a little weird that in 2025, the top trims of both of these vehicles come with a half and half as opposed to fully digital, but I'm sure that'll change in the coming years. The last category before we pick a winner will be pricing. So these are Canadian MSRP figures. The Mazda has 3 trims, the Honda has 2. Let's go Mazda first. GSL 42,950. The Kuro trim is 44,850, and the top trim GT is 48,350. Over on the Honda side, EXL 48,075, and the top trim Touring is 50,575. 2 key takeaways from that pricing: if you are going top trim to top trim, the Honda is more expensive by $2,225. If you're going base trim to base trim, the Mazda is less expensive by $5,125. So my takeaways from that are, if you just want a hybrid vehicle in this class and you don't care about bells and whistles, absolutely look at the Mazda, because again, you're saving a little over $5,000. If you want top trim to top trim and price is a driving factor for you outside of the bells and whistles and then some, well, the Mazda wins again at being $2,225 less expensive. So on the pricing side, Mazda has it both base trim to base trim, top trim to top trim, but it's going to be more than price. You know, for example, the Mazda has a panoramic sunroof and the Honda has a single panel. The Honda has a rear camera washer, whereas we don't have that here. You get the reclining rear seats in the Honda. You don't get that here. You get a release for the rear seats in the Mazda, but you don't get that in the Honda. Mazda has a better audio system. Mazda has better graphics. So it really depends on what you want. And I could nitpick everything over and over and over again, but I don't know what you want. I'm just here to present the information and help you in your research phase as you do make a decision. Speaking of decisions, it's decision time. I'm going to give you two of them. One will be a depending on what you like decision, and then one will be my actual decision. So depending on what you like comes in as this. If you want something with a better drive feel that is a little more lively and spirited and just has more of that instant acceleration, look at the Honda. If you want something with a premium and upscale feel with nicer materials, 3 different choices in colors, look at the Mazda. And again, this is all meant to help in your research phase as you try and decide which of these compact hybrid crossovers you want. What I'm gonna go with is the Honda. And it's weird because I usually pick Mazda based off the driving dynamics, but because it's not here, Honda does it for me. I don't mind losing out on the different colors of interior. I don't mind losing out on the panoramic sunroof. I want something that feels better day to day on the road. I don't really care that the Honda has a lower quality of material compared to the Mazda. The Honda feels a lot flatter and sturdier and quicker, both in straight lines and around twists and turns. So I'm going with the Honda CR-V Hybrid between the two. And I'm going to reiterate this because it's not that the Mazda CX-50 is a bad vehicle at all. It is quite good, and I'm happy that it's here. It's just not, to me, a true Mazda vehicle because of those different driving dynamics. And the contributor for that is having the Toyota powertrain, which is a great powertrain for the RAV4, and it does extremely well. And you could barely keep those RAV4 hybrids in stock, and I get that, but it's not the right powertrain for me for the CX-50. I would have much rather Mazda waited another year, maybe another 2 years, to come out with their own custom powertrain. My winner again is the Honda CR-V between these two, and that's going to wrap it up for the comparison between the 2025 Honda CR-V Hybrid and the 2025 Mazda CX-50 Hybrid. If you have any questions on what you've seen in the video, let me know in the comments. I am more than happy to get you answers as soon as possible, and I am always up for a respectful discussion online. I encourage you to join our social media platforms. We are on all of the major ones. I thank you. I appreciate you. I invite you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you know someone in your network that might be interested in what I do, I invite you to join them as well. Nope, I invite you to invite them to join. I knew I missed a word. With that, I thank you and I appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.